David Robertson. Welcome to the Soccer Queens podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to chat with you today.
Thanks for coming on. And you actually reached out to me at the perfect time after the whole solo ECNL versus GA episode I did. And you've worked with your club in GA for many years now. You're making a very exciting transition to ECNL. So, yeah, we're going to dive into it all today. But why don't you just give the listeners your coaching background and who you're currently working with?
Been doing this for quite a while now in the US. Obviously, the funny accent shows I'm not originally from here. So, moved here to the United States when I was a kid, kind of with my parents. Moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I spent quite a long time. Actually, ended up running the girls program at Cincinnati United Premier and the development academy program at the Cincinnati Development Academy before making the kind of formal switch up here to Detroit, Michigan with nationals. So that was about 4 years ago now. Seems like it was just a couple of weeks ago, but it's been about 4 years. So I had the privilege of coaching and directing in US youth soccer in the girls academy, and then we'll transition to the ECNL with nationals here shortly. But nationals is one of the just like Cup is one of the founding members of the girls academy. Kind of when US soccer dropped that bombshell via Twitter. What is 4 years, 4.5 years ago now, that they were disbanding the US Soccer Development Academy and just kind of work together with a lot of clubs to kind of create a landing space for people. And the youth soccer world is always changing quickly and drastically, and trying to help as many kids as we could create that. So
Awesome. And you've done so much with the nationals and have had a very successful program. And I kind of want you to inform the listeners on kind of what you guys have accomplished in the past few years because it is a big deal.
yeah, nationals is in the grand scheme of all the clubs is actually not even that old. It's kind of cool. It was in 2016. It was a merger between two really successful kind of Detroit metro area youth clubs, Waza and Gators, that came together and formed nationals in 2016. So it's always been a really good program, and that's what funnily, when I moved up here, I almost felt like it was the best kept secret in the US a little bit, in terms of it's a very distinct style of play of soccer. So the teams play, it's very influenced by kind of the Pep Guardiola Barcelona, and I know everybody likes to say that, but we always feel like if you come out and watch our teams, you can kind of see some direct correlations of how those professional teams play. Because for us, it's always been, our girls academy, our boys academy is about helping the very top players with the highest level of motivation and ambition and talent to achieve their dreams, whatever those might be, whether it's the professional, the youth national team, collegiate, whatever it might be. So it's kind of been a really focused program. And we, like I said, we were kind of a founding member of the Girls Academy. We've been lucky enough, on the girls' side to win. It's not just in the Girls Academy, but US Youth and things like that. Win eight female national championships. We've won the overall club championship in the Girls Academy 2 out of the 3 years, which is given to the most successful program throughout all 6 age groups, so under 13 through under 19. Just this past weekend, 4 of our 6 teams just picked up another conference championship, with the other 2 can win it in a week or so, depending on how results go. We've won 20 plus conference championships. We've had a lot of players go on to youth national teams. We've actually had a couple of players go on and play at the full national team level for various countries, and then we've got a ton of girls that have gone on to play in college at every possible level. We're always about trying to celebrate their success, and whether it's Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, JUCO, whatever it might be, we're here to help their pathway, and we're excited that every girl in the last 4 years that has wanted to go on and play in college has been able to do so. There's some that have elected to they just wanted to be a student in college, and we support them in those dreams as well. And we're excited to see them continue, whether it's on or off the field. So yeah, that was my bit of a ramble. But there's a lot to be proud of here, and there's a lot of people that make this a very successful program.
Yeah, I appreciate you bragging a little bit. I know you're really humble, but yeah, I mean, just so many great success stories. And I'm just really curious, like when you came in, when you did, what were some things within the club culture that you're like, okay, we might need to change something here?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of really kind of laser focusing stuff on what kind of reverse engineering the goals, right? Of what are we trying to provide for our players both on and off the field. So it was, when you've been doing this for a while, you're lucky enough to go through different experiences, both good and bad, and realize what are some really good things that people do and have been successful, and then what are some things that you don't want to replicate, and make sure you don't go through with your players and your families. And so for us, it's Detroit in the metro area is a really cool place. It's very friendly, it's very warm, despite it being very cold up here in the winter. It's a great, kind of community that's a real melting pot. There's so many different types of cultures and communities, and this sport is really, really a source of passion kind of for the community as well. They love their sports here in Detroit, and obviously have a long history of success with those. So it was okay. How do we dive into that? The culture of the city, and really make that our identity as well. So it was one of those about really defining what makes us special, both in terms of the soccer part was there. It was just about fine tuning things a little bit and making sure that it's never about any individual coach. It's you play for nationals, and this is how we play. And it's not right for everybody, and that's okay. And there's been really good players where it just hasn't worked out. And there's been players that have come in and have thrived in that kind of world. And what it's created is a real pipeline to, especially some of the really, really top programs in the country, of they know what they're going to get with our players, in terms of understanding tactics, understanding roles and responsibilities and positional, information, things like that. They can translate directly to how they want to play. There's also colleges who go, probably we're not going to go there because we don't fit that stylistically, which is okay as well. But in terms of off the field, we wanted to add in a lot of stuff of helping these girls and young women really kind of find their identity, and it's you know how do you make the place where you are better, and that's your community that you're in, the people that surround you on your team, families and friends like that. So we're lucky we've got a really good group that kind of takes a lead in creating community involvement things. So whether it's working on one of the coolest things, so we've got the Wolf family, who's had a couple of girls go through our program. They kind of took a lead with, it's called the Noah Project in Detroit, and it's obviously, like we said, it gets very cold up here. So going into the winter, they collect new underwear and socks and bras and things like that for the homeless population in Detroit, and we've been really successful with that. They've won kind of the top prize in that several years in a row, but that family kind of leads that initiative. So there's a lot of different families that have kind of really taken the lead on how do we make sure that when somebody thinks of nationals, they think of obviously the soccer success, but they also think of those are people who have made the space around them better, right, in their community, and people want to be a part of it because everyone talks about culture and family, and but it's very different feeling it. So that's what I always tell people is it's the best way to judge what our culture is to go and talk to the players that play for us when we're not around, right? So what do they say? And we've had a lot of people reach out, and that's one of the things they speak about is why they'd love to check out our club and see if it's a right fit for them, is because of what our players and our families say about us, at school, and when they're at book club or whatever it is for the mums, and different things like that. So I think that's been the real thing of making people really proud of what they do, and what it stands for, and kind of the responsibility, but also the pride that comes with kind of wearing this badge and on a daily basis.
I can really sense that pride just from what I see on Twitter with, like, a lot of your girls follow me and I follow them from, like, all age groups, and, yeah, I just see them just retweeting everything and excited to be at the club and super proud is the best way I would put it. I like that your approach is very holistic, and, yes, it is about the soccer development and the style of play, but it's also about what they're doing off the field and what types of, character they all have. But just kinda coming back to the style of play, I just feel it's so hard for a lot of clubs now to all get on it the same page. Like, every coach has their own style or what they want to implement. So, how do you manage that? Because you said you do play more of, like, a Barcelona style, like, overall the whole club, but how do you manage that with, like, all the coaches and different personalities?
Yeah, it's tough, and I think that's always the real challenge from a director and a leadership kind of standpoint is, how do you make sure that everyone's bought into that message, right? So we have it pretty clearly defined in terms of our methodology and stuff like that. But there's a lot of clubs that have those documents, and then it's, well, this is my team, and I'm going to do it my way, right? And so we're very, very selective in terms of our staffing. So it's a lot of work, and several of the guys have been here for a long time, so they're kind of indoctrinated, if you will, into the style. So that's a big piece of we want just like we want our players to be able to, and we play our players all over the place, right? So they'll play up if it's the appropriate thing, and the same for coaches. We'll cover each other. We'll make sure that you know the wording and the terminology is the same, and the staff are really bought in. So it's we talk about how we want to play all the time, and it's very much not, hey, I'm telling you how we're going to play. It's let's talk about how we as the staff are going to share our kind of collective vision, because that's really what it is. If there's it's like anything, if everyone's not bought in, that one person is going to cause the whole thing to fall apart. Because at some point they're going to be involved with the teams, and then it's going to, the wheel falls off the wagon, and it's hard to really get it going. So, we're lucky that we have an incredible staff, and not only the staff in the girls' academy, but our boys' academy staff, our union staff, the people that do the younger teams, all the way down to the tiny little babies that are just getting started. They all have the same kind of vision, which is something that I've never seen before, which is really cool. Of the people that work with them from when they're really little, all the way to obviously the people that see them off when they graduate high school and graduate from our program, have this kind of shared mentality and philosophy. And people come and go a little bit, but the club's done a really good job of bringing in the right people with the right mentality, who are really focused on, it's not about me as a coach or director and I get my reputation built on what these teams do. It's about what nationals does. And obviously we're very successful at what we do, luckily. So everybody kind of grows and shines together because of the collective as opposed to the individual. Because then you also don't run into the situation where parents and families are going to come into the club or leave a club based on team selections of coaches, right? We want them to be excited to be at nationals, not just because David is or isn't their coach, right? For me, that's just the person who is part of the program who you get to work with for this set number of years. We want them to be excited about everybody, because everyone does a really good job, and everyone's going to provide the same methodology and the same style of teaching, and that kind of individual care and attention that all the girls need and deserve.
Yes, and that cohesiveness really helps with the player development, and it really becomes more about the girls at that point. But within the methodology, the coaches do have the freedom to kind of tweak their own drills and small-sided games. And I see you sharing a lot of what you do at practice on Twitter, which I love, and it's just so helpful to other coaches to see what you guys are doing. I mean, the practices look so intense. It looks like the girls are really learning the game, and it's just amazing to see. Now, you have been in the GA, and
Mhm.
I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, is it the best league? How does it compare to ECNL? And I do get this question a lot, and it's a very nuanced answer. I'm sure you can agree, but you've had girls like go on to great college programs playing in the GA. So yeah, just kind of give your food for thought there.
I think sometimes we get so stuck up on what the letters are, and I think it's the inside of every league. There is because there are a ton of them now, right? So and that's the you have clubs that are doing a wonderful job, clubs that are just kind of there, and then clubs that need to improve in certain aspects. So I think it's I think unequivocally, if you're in the ECNL or the Girls Academy, there's going to be a leg up in terms of your exposure, right? Being able to be seen at, because you look at as well for colleges, one of the big things is where can they go to get the most bang for their buck, right? In terms of their budgets and things like that. So you look at the showcases for the leagues provide a great opportunity to see a high volume of players in the tier that they're looking for. So you definitely get a leg up as long as you're in kind of one of those clubs. But that's also not the be all end all, right? And it's when you're looking at a club or a program, I think so much of it is what does that club do on a daily basis, right? Because what do they do in terms of the training and development? And I think the best way to do that is to go and show up to a training and watch it, but don't tell them you're coming, because everyone can put on a good show, right? If you know what's coming. So it's the okay, what does training look like? How do they interact with the players? And as well, look at what's the track record of going on to help players get to the next level, whatever that might be. So because inside of each league, like we said, there's people that do a wonderful job, there's people that are improving. So it's all about, at the end of the day, okay, yes, that could be one criteria that you're looking for, in terms of do they have access to a platform like that. But then there's so many other things that are so important, because if you're not developing and if you don't have a coach that's advocating for you in a program that's getting exposure, then a lot of the other stuff can be irrelevant, right? Because you need to look at how can I maximize my individual development so when those opportunities do come my way to be seen, whether it's at a showcase, whether it's at, a game that a college coach has come to, whether it's a camp, wherever it might be, you're able to be your best version of yourself. So how do you surround yourself with the best possible players, right? So the best, because at the end of the day, the better the players that you're training with, the better you're going to be ultimately. And, the better the environment, the better the coaches and trainers. So I think it's like you said, there's no black and white answer, which I think everyone would love, but it's how do you dive into all the things that are important to you? And there's going to be no perfect scenario, most likely. So it's for your daughter or your son, what fits them best, and what do you think is going to maximize them both from their learning style, their age, right? Because I think sometimes we can get caught up in what might be best for a 16-year-old is not necessarily best for a 7 or 8-year-old, and that can lead to a different answer in terms of where you find yourself, with a club or program or things like that. So I think there's wonderful things about the leagues and the things that they provide, but it's not always the be all end all. It's ultimately, what are the clubs doing together? And one of the fantastic things that, obviously we're kind of the new kids with the ECNL, so we're doing a lot of learning and just the incredible collaboration that a lot of the clubs have and how they're kind of going towards one goal of how do we develop the best youth league in the world, and how do we provide these girls with an incredible opportunity. And you look at even things like they just released the program where they're going to connect players that have maybe multiple citizenships or opportunities to play for other countries, with their youth national team programs, and just providing those different avenues that are tough sometimes to see. um, in the girls academy as well, there's a wonderful group of clubs that work together and striving to do that. So just like anything in life, you can find what you're looking for inside of anything. And so I think it's always about, in your community, in your market, what are the clubs doing and what's their track record of doing it. So it's one thing to say we want to do these things, but then it's okay, what do your alumni say about you? What do the college selections look like? And I think for people to remember as well, that's not always who put the most players in Power Four colleges. It's okay, where are players going on, and is there a good selection? Because again, everybody's right fit isn't always the fancy logos that you see on television. It's, hey, do you have players going there? Fantastic. But, just like ironically, like you, we had a girl go to Johns Hopkins last year who's, and that's what a wonderful program and what a wonderful education. And she's loving it and, getting to go compete for national championships. And, we've got kids at the NAI level, the JUCO level, D3, D2, D1. It's all about finding what is the best fit for them. And we've also had girls go on to the professional ranks. So it's, each kid is different. And I think it's finding a club that makes sure that they keep that mentality of there's no blanket answer for anyone. It's every girl or boy is different. And so how do you help them figure out what their best right fit is?
Yeah, and I like that you said that a certain league is not always like an end all be all to college recruiting, and there's many ways to get seen. But it is important to look at the coach, and if you are choosing between a GA or ECNL team and one team has a great coach and one doesn't, then that might be your make or break decision because you still want to become a good soccer player so you can get seen at the ID camps or you can send in good video. So, yeah, it's just such a tough decision to wrestle with. Now, for the young ones, I did want to ask you about that because you said it's going to look very different for a 16-year-old than a 7-year-old. So, at age like 7 to 9, I think now it's more like the quote unquote like pre-ECNL teams that are coming up. So should girls switch to those teams at that age? Or again, is it just like based on what people value?
I think especially at the younger ages, the biggest piece, regardless of what the club is or what league they have access to, is those leagues don't typically start till under 13, right? In their true form. So I think it's at the youngest ages, find the very best possible coach. And that could be at a tiny community club, right? That could be in a recreational thing, or it could be at one of the really big brand name clubs, right? So I think that's the big thing of you have to, depending on your market, when they're little, especially, that's the most important ages for learning not just the fundamentals of the game and the technical abilities, but the love of the game, right? And a passion for it. Because if you don't have those, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you're always going to end up feeling like it's a burden instead of something that you look forward to, right? And you have to love it, because when you do get to 16 and 17 and you face some of the choices of Friday night looks like a gym more than it looks like a party on a lot of occasions. So it's one of those it's a grind. So you have to love it to see it through when you're older, and it's so important that that gets developed when they're little, and they have joy and they love it. And as well, it's I think being cautious to be in a rush to do too much too soon. And what I mean by that is you don't as a 7 or 8 year old, you don't need to be traveling the country every couple of weeks to play games. And while it can be really exciting, and also for parents that age, you think about the volume of those trips, and then when it does become really important. So the college showcases, for example, are your biggest ones, or playoffs or stuff like that when they're older. Sometimes then it's like, oh, here we go again. So that excitement you felt at 6 and 7 should be the same excitement you feel when you're older, so that it doesn't feel like a burden because we've done so many trips already and the kids are just kind of like, oh, here we go again, as opposed to, oh my goodness, we get to go and play these incredible clubs, and there's going to be these colleges here, and you know what, it's an exciting occasion to go to California or Texas or Florida, as opposed to it's just what we do, you know. So I think that's the big thing of kind of a cautionary tale of don't burn yourself out on what is something that's really exciting, because you know those leagues don't start until 13. You know, some ages do have, you know, under 11, under 12 organized programming, but for the most part it's still around your area. So that's the biggest thing, is when the focus is or should be on the area that you're in, right, in terms of your city or your town, find the very, very best possible trainer. And the club doesn't matter at the youngest ages. You know, and obviously we're one of the very, very top clubs in the country, and we're very, very proud of that. And we have incredible guys at the younger ages and girls at the younger ages who do a wonderful job. And so for us, in my, of course, very unbiased opinion, I would say, yeah, we've got them. But there's also wonderful people at community clubs around here, and wonderful people in the suburbs and stuff like that. So it's find the person who has a track record of it, but also like if you go to a training, and are they excited to be there? Do they love working with the little kids? Because it is different, right? And it takes a different type of energy and patience, and you know, because I remember doing a couple of those sessions in Cincinnati, and you know, a frog would hop across, and it's like, well, training's done for 10 minutes because that was the most exciting thing. So you know, it's go and watch the trainer, watch how excited they are, and watch how creative they are. And you know, there's people that are so wonderful about making it about stories, and you're on pirate ships and you're going to the moon, but you're learning these technical skills and things like that. So I think that's the find people that have a passion, a love, and a joy, for the game, that becomes contagious. And if that can then go into your son and daughter, the rest of the journey is going to be so much easier. And you've got plenty of time. If you're a good player, you're going to have opportunity to play when it is time to shift towards those very, very top leagues and programs.
I agree with you. I think it does become this organic process for a young one who was coached well at a young age and who fell in love with the game, that they'll naturally grow into that high level player potentially. But I know a lot of parents are thinking, well, if they're not on the pre ECNL at age 8, then when we try out at age 12 or 13, they're going to be behind and not make the team. But to your point, if they have that good training, then they actually might be ahead, even though if it was good training on a rec team.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing as well, as you look at developmentally, you're going to thrive where you're enjoying it and loving it. Now, you always need to be challenged, right? Because if it's too easy, then you're not going to develop. You'll still develop, right? But you're not going to develop at your individual max, right? And it's always about that fine balance of how do you balance the two, and how do you push? And so it's okay, if the best trainer at age 7 is at, you know, a program or a team that's maybe just okay, right? Of being on that team, but can you supplement it with maybe going in training with boys? Can you go and find, you know, different opportunities, or you know, you learn how to train on your own, or you work with somebody else? So there's ways to supplement things. You know, and I think that's another thing of each community in each city is different, right? So what works in Detroit is maybe going to be different than Cincinnati, that's different than Nashville, and different than Atlanta. You know, so all these things are important for people to do your research, because it could be easy to just go somewhere and then you go, oh, well, I don't know why it didn't work. You know, so it's, are you thriving in your environment? Are you being challenged? And that's challenged at training, challenged in game environments. Because I think if you look at it kind of as a rule of thirds, of there should be a third of the games that you probably at the younger age win pretty comfortably, right? Because maybe you're just the better team. A third of the games that you're not going to win because you're playing people that are better than you, and a third of the games that could go either way. And it's really in that kind of second two tiers that we talked about where the development happens, because you need to have success in order to build confidence. But you need to be challenged in order to build the skills. So it's that fine art of, looking at a team's success, but also looking at how are they being challenged. So do they go and win every tournament by 60 goals? And it's, well, okay, they're obviously very good, but are they getting better? And are they being forced to do things that make them uncomfortable? So I think those are really important things of look beyond just the surface and the social media posts. Look at where the development's lying, how are they being challenged? Are they loving the game? And then, like you said, is ultimately if you can check all those boxes, or you can check a majority of the boxes, if we're being realistic, because it's hard to check every box. So then when it comes time to, under 13, under 14, and these the teams that tend to be in the very top leagues tend to be, at the top end of whether it's development or exposure, whatever it is. So they are very good. So ultimately, though, the best players are going to make the team. Now, like for us and for a lot of clubs, I know that yes, if there is a tie between players or it's close, that tiebreaker is always going to go to the player that's in the club, right? Because that's they've been with us and they've trusted us for their development. And we want to show loyalty two ways. We ask for it from our players, so it's also important that we reciprocate that. But at the end of the day, if you're standing out and you're a top 5 to 10 player at the tryouts, you're gonna be okay.
Thanks for sharing that, and I just love talking about the young ones because it's so important that they just have the right people. It really does take an army at that age, so I hope that helped everyone listening. Now, I'm curious about your decision to go ECNL. You get the phone call or email that you guys got it. What's going through your mind? And then how do you start to just wrestle with the decision to make the switch?
Yeah, it's always complicated, right? It's never quite cut and dry, but for us, it's we always evaluate what is going to be the best thing for our club and for our program, right? And we've got that question from a lot of people because we helped found the Girls Academy, and we're very proud of that work, and we think the Girls Academy's done a great job, and we're excited for their future and their growth. But we had to look at what was best for our program and what is best in our area, and to help our players again be challenged, be motivated, be gain exposure, and then look at what kind of values align with us as a program, and with the league that we're looking to go to. So always been the ECNL has obviously done a wonderful job, and it came from the quest for more when they started it and when they've grown it and things like that. And then that's they're very clear in terms of their goal is to be the best youth league in the world and to support boys and girls in multiple environments with the ECNL and the regional league, and all the different pieces that encompasses. So for us, the opportunity to go into what is the top youth league in the world, and challenge ourselves on a daily basis, both as coaches of the program and our players, playing against, I mean, the list of clubs that are in our conference and that are in the ECNL, it's unbelievable. Just in terms of from a really, really top end. And like we said, is our goal, and we've always said this, is to help our players get to their highest possible level. And we want to be the destination in Metro Detroit for players whose ambition is to go and play at the highest levels of college, professional, youth national team. And we'll provide you the environment. It's up to you ultimately if you get to those ultimate ceilings. But for us, that aligns by making the move to the ECNL. The caliber of players, of coaches, of teams, of directors, of humans that are there, was incredible, and something that we were honored to be asked to be a part of. Our boys have been there for a few years and had a wonderful experience, and for the girls, it was a natural step for us to kind of fully align the club, with our values along with ECNL. And we ask our players to get better on a daily basis. We ask them to strive for the very, very best. And so for us, it was the same thing. We wanted to then, take that next step and join the ECNL, and we were honored that they felt it was right for them too.
Yeah, I think the competition is pretty unmatched in the ECNL, and I live down here near Sarasota where all the showcases are usually happening, and it's always fun to just get out and watch the games. And I know for college coaches, they love watching that high level and that competition, and really exposes what a player is good and what their weaknesses are. So I think the competition is fantastic. Now, I guess people are probably wondering, well, does ECNL get a little bit more college exposure than GA? And that seems to be the constant battle, like which one's better for exposure? But I think it kinda comes back to what we were talking about earlier is, like, what do you value and where do you
Mhm.
wanna go?
Yeah, I think it's the both leagues provide fantastic opportunities for players to be showcased. I think the ECNL has a really deep pool of really high end and really quality clubs, and I think the numbers that they've published are pretty staggering, both for ECNL and for the ECNL Regional League, and it's been really cool to see them kind of grow that and really create that exposure so that you can help everybody find a home and the exposure because sometimes it's about it's not always about your top x number of players. It's there's a big pool in a lot of clubs, and how do you help them all gain the exposure? So seeing the growth year to year with ECNL and ECNL Regional League of, again, they've said they want those to be the top two leagues in the world, and they've put thing or in the in the United States for players, and that's they've put words into actions, both with the college coach attendance, the quality of clubs that are a part of it, and then the quality of competition, like you said, that's so crucial because for college coaches, the ultimate driving factor is always going to be, I need to evaluate this player in the highest possible environment. So if you team A and team B are two of the top clubs in the country or top teams in their age group in the country, that game is going to tell me everything I probably need to know, as opposed to you may have to see them 3, 4, 5 times if it's, if you're not sure or the game was unbalanced for whatever reason. So I think you get such a high volume of that the college attendance is through the roof, and that's not to say that multiple platforms haven't done a good job. It's I think the ECNL has done a really cool job of creating something that players want to be a part of, clubs want to be a part of, and the college coaches know it is a wonderful opportunity to evaluate players in the most competitive environment, for that team. So they can see them when it's hard. They can see them in success moments. They can see how do they do when momentum switches for them or against them, against a like for like opponent. So it's been cool to witness, and we're super excited to continue to test ourselves in those environments. And for us, it's it makes sure that we can't get complacent at any point and be comfortable at any point. It's we always have to be striving to be better and also to help even those clubs around us be better. So the better we are, the better our opponents have to be, and then the ultimate winner is soccer, right? Because we make everybody better, and that's I think the ultimate goal of how do we help this country. I think for a long time, obviously, it's been the standard for women's sports. How do we make sure that that is always the case? Because there's a lot of countries are very very good now. So how do we make sure that we at nationals do our small part to make our club the very best possible? But then also every club that we encounter, how do we make them better on that day?
So now looking ahead to the fall, when you do go into the ECNL, what are some things you are focusing on leading up to that debut season?
Yeah, it's I think sometimes it's not making it bigger than it is in terms of we don't change who we are, right? Of I think the players are really excited to play new teams, and have new opportunities and new challenges. So I think that's the big piece of we know that we're going into an unbelievable conference, right? And there's so much talent and so many good clubs and teams that play all different styles and things like that. So I think we're really excited to, test ourselves and prove ourselves against different things. But what we always tell them, both as a person and as a player, it's important to remain who we are and stay true to that because that's what's got us here. And that's what we really believe in is this is how we play. This is how we're going to develop you as a player. This is how we're going to teach you to handle adversity and teach you to be an empowered young woman. And none of that changes because of a league we're in. It's who we are. And that's what we've always felt is we are nationals. And obviously, a league is a part of who we are and what we do. But ultimately, we are who we are. And we don't want that to change for anybody. And it's, again, we try to align what we do with kind of the life lessons that we teach the people. And it's for our young women is you are who you are and you shouldn't change for anybody, whether that's life, relationships, whatever it is, you develop and you grow and you get better every day. But you are who you are. And that's super special. You are a one of one in the world. So embrace that and own it. And that's your identity, not anything else. So, for us, it's we want to continue to be who we are. And we know that that's going to get pushed and challenged. And it's a good test for us to, again, showcase that we're committed to our identity. We're committed to who we are. And that's how we're going to stay.
Now, in terms of summer off-season training, what does that look like for your team? How are you finding that balance between, okay, girls, enjoy your summer vacation, but we also need to prepare and be ready for the demands in the fall.
Yeah, it's a really tough, delicate question because you also have teams that it's a little bit team based, right? Because they finish at different times. Some, you know, for everybody, some might not make the playoffs, and so their season's done in June. And then some people make the playoffs and they don't qualify for the kind of last eight, and so their season's done at the end of June. And then you have the people that go to the elite eight, and then their season's not done till the middle or late July. And so it's okay, how do you balance, like you said, is we also have to remember that we're not training professionals, right? And they are we would love them to be, and some of them will be, but they're also teenage girls, right? And that's the letting them also find the balance of you've worked so hard and you've put so much into this. We want you to find that balance so that you spend time with your friends and you spend time with your family and you get to go on holiday and you do all these things that are part of being a human being, right? But maybe your time is more compressed than the average student who gets to go on X number of vacations and spring breaks and do all these things. So it's kind of now's your window. So we try to give them, ideally we would love for them to have about 3 weeks. And what we do is, a lot of times it ends up being about 2.5 if they've gone all the way. But we try to really periodize things and keep track of them. So we make sure that for at least really 2 weeks they are off like nothing. It is you're not allowed to, you shouldn't be going for a run, anything like that. Then it's about, okay, how do you start to build back in, right? And that has to be done because you can't go from 0 to 100. Otherwise, there's a strong chance you're going to create, muscle fatigue and injuries and stuff like that. So we create kind of similar to college packets, of all right, on week, around day 10, start to do these types of things. So start to get yourself into the gym, start to go for, jogs. And then how do you start kind of interval training and stuff like that? And it should be this number of times a week over this course so that by the time we get to training and then in training, the first week or so we'll go not all 4 days straight away. It's 2 days versus 4 days. And then we build it to three and build it to four. And we use like Soccer Pulse now to keep a track of how they're feeling. Because that's another piece of it's the summer at times, and sometimes they're up until 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and they have training the next day, and they're not at their best. So we have to be conscious of that as coaches, so that we're not punishing them. We're just helping them to understand that you might have to be a neutral in this activity a little bit more, or a bumper, because your body's not at 100%. And then they learn to go, okay, so if I make this choice, there is this consequence. And it doesn't mean that I can't play soccer. It just means that, my it has to look a little bit different. Or, especially with the females, is it are they on their period? Do we have to help adjust training for that? Do we have to reduce loads? Do we have to have an increased warm up? All these different things that how do we help them maximize it? And that's, continuing to educate them. And what is important, what is the biggest struggle for our players is kind of, it's ironically what makes the American culture really, really good, but also as it challenges the go, go, go. I must be 100 miles an hour all the time and do all of the activities, right? Nothing is too much. So how do we get them to really rest and understand that days off are important? Like, we had 2 games this weekend, and as much as a bunch of them asked to train, we told them you're off today, like off, you can't do anything, right? And there's some of them that fight that. But it's that education piece and helping them to learn how to build into things, how to taper off things is really important. Because when we're not there to micromanage it, or well, not that we micromanage it, but we try to help, kind of guide them, and their parents do the same, because it's a community effort. It takes the whole village. When they get to college and then eventually beyond that, is they might not have as many people hovering over them to make sure that it is this or is that. So they have to understand the whys of things, not just, well, coach said I can't train today, or, I need to do it at 50%, or, hey, I need to do more today because I didn't do as much this day. It's, I understand why. Um, and that's a really important piece for us. So the answer is it depends. Ultimately, when they finish and when we start back up. So we taper them in to try and make sure that we give them the best possible opportunity to be as healthy as possible. And for us, we try to include, like, we're not just sitting there, doing the beep test and running them into the ground and stuff like that, because we help them understand the test that they'll have to pass in college. Going in, whether it's the Nike Spark version or the yo-yo or intermittent test, whatever it might be, help them get comfortable with that. But that's just a measuring stick of where you are on that day, right? That doesn't define necessarily your fitness level. And for us, The only way to gauge that and build that is match fitness. And anyone that's played it knows that you can be fit as a fiddle. And then you get into the game and you don't understand why at 20 minutes you are dying. And that's, you have to build to it. Right. And it's the same thing with training. So it's okay. For us, fitness is defined as your ability to perform whatever action it is, pass, dribble, run at your individual best for X amount of time. And at the beginning of the preseason, that's probably going to be 7 minutes, maybe at best for a pretty fit kid. It's okay. How do we get you to 45 minutes without a break? And that's what it is. So we always look at, okay, we get our fitness a lot of times out of the activities that we do. Whether it's the rondos or this, so we adjust space, we adjust rest periods, we adjust the length of the activities in order to kind of get the fitness objectives. Plus, it's way more fun to play soccer and get fit than it is to just run. So
I love that you guys are really thinking through the summer programming and the periodization, and it's not just this free for all like a lot of people do, whether they're lazy or just not educated on periodization. But I think it's just inspiration for coaches listening that girls do need that deload period in the summer, but then they need to gradually be built up again for that first practice back instead of first practice like running into the ground right away and trying to pick up the pieces and get everyone in shape in a week. So, yeah, I think that's really great, and for the parents listening, they can understand that as well and maybe have an outside performance coach help with that or a separate program or whatever they do if their club or their coach isn't offering it. So, are there any last words you would leave everyone with on just kinda deciding the leagues or just the college pathway? Anything that you got for us?
yeah, loaded question there. I think ultimately it is always about doing your research, and communicating is really important, right? So same as in life, right? It's like writing college emails. If you copy and paste a lot of stuff, you're going to get a copy and paste back. If you really dive in and learn about the university and the program, it's going to be different, right? It's the same as choosing a club and a coach and a program. It's do your research because it is a really big life decision, especially if your ambition is beyond just playing. And that's I think understanding that with your child is there are so many different pathways with this sport, and that's the beautiful thing in this country is there's lots of opportunities for everyone. And if you want to go pro and you have all the pieces to go and do it, there's ways to do it. If that's college, and there's lots of different levels of college. If you just want to play for your high school, that's great. And you know what, if you just like playing and Siri's talking here, if you just want to play for fun, there's so many places to do that as well. And so I think that's for parents understanding what your child's motivation is, and that might differ from year to year. And all of them are okay. It's okay to just want to play for fun and play with your friends. It's okay to want to be a pro and be obsessed with this sport. And so I think there's obviously everything in between. So it's about talking to your son and daughter and really learning what their dream is, not what maybe your dream for them might be. And how do you support that? And so it's okay if they just want to be the best version of themselves, or they want to be the very best player, or they just want to play for fun, is what does that environment look like? And that can range from recreational to academies. And it's within those, you still have to do your research of who is the coach and what is the program philosophy and how do they help my son or daughter be a better player, but a better person? Do they lead by example? How do they interact with their players? All these different pieces are really important. Um, and I think, like you said on a previous thing, is you're never going to find perfect, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't chase it. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't look for it. And you go with as close to what you can find of perfect. And that's different. And I think for everybody, and that is my ultimate thing that I think, having seen hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of players go through this process, is comparison is the thief of joy, is the biggest quote that I can push for anything sports related. Is everybody's journey is going to be different, and that's okay. It happens later for some, it happens earlier for some, and that's okay. And it's about how do you support your child, or if you're the player, how do you support yourself and be happy for other people when their journey is going well, be supportive when it's not going well, understanding that you hope that that comes back to you. But you get out of this sport what you put into it, just like anything kind of in life with work or whatever it might be. So if you put everything into it for the level that you want to go to, you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to get to your goal, right? You shoot for the moon and you might land in the stars, you might not. but you give yourself the best opportunity because I think as adults, all of us look back and go, God, I wish I'd done that, right? Or I wish I'd worked harder in that moment, or I wish I'd backed off in that moment, right? So it's understanding that your journey is unique to you, and every day that you can put your best in, but also understanding that on some days your best might be I got up, I made my bed, I went to school, I ate right, I came home, and that was it, and that's okay, right? And some days it might be multiple gym sessions, it might be, I was on the phone for 6 hours with colleges trying to figure things out. That's also okay. So I think that's the biggest piece of you get out of this what you put into it. Research is important, figuring out what is important to you, and then reverse engineer the goal. You want this environment, you want this type of coach, you want these opportunities. What provides that? Where are they? And then how can I get the opportunity to get in front of that individual to see if we're a good fit? Right. And that's got to be a two-way fit. You've got to be right for the club, and the club's got to be right for you. Same as a college.
Those were some great parting words, and I got really pumped up from that.
There we
Just
go.
great to start my Monday. That's when we're recording this. But yeah, I think that's a lot for everyone to just think on when making their decisions if they want to switch clubs. So I just think sometimes people make a very fast decision without, like you said, doing deep research. So I really think this conversation was just going to help everyone. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the ECNL. And when you're down in Florida, let me know because I
Absolutely.
do want to come out and watch and just see all the great things you're doing with the Nationals. So, David, thank you again for coming on, and I will see everyone on the next episode.